Hello everyone. So last time we learned assumptions of perfect competition. So I am once again repeating the assumptions of perfect competition. Okay. First one is large number of buyers and sellers. Right. This was the first assumption, and second one was homogeneity of product or commodity sold in the market. Then we also learnt about laissez-faire word, which means no government intervention. We also learnt about atomistic nature of buyers and sellers. Right. Then we also, if you are written down, so we also had an assumption about pre entry and exit, pre-entry and exit in the long run. Then what can be sixth one? Then perfect knowledge of a market condition, perfect knowledge about market and commodities bought and sold in the market, right? So these were some of the assumptions. Now the remaining one was perfect mobility of the resources. Perfect mobility of the resources. This was not discussed in the last class. Right. So now perfect mobility of resources, means that resources are free to move from one use to another use, from one form to another form. So resources are not held up in any particular enterprise. Resources means let's say workers or labor. So why do we have this assumption? That means wherever resources get more price, resources fetch more price, they will be allocated to that resource, and the price will reflect the scarcity of the resources in that use. So in whichever use the scarcity is more, so there it will fetch more price. So more price means resources will move to that thing. So it's like a cloud, get attracted to the areas where there is low pressure. Okay, so this is happening, and they move from the area where high pressure is there. So this is the same thing. Wherever price is more, that means scarcity is more. So resources will move. So wherever labor gets more wages, they will move to that place or that use. Okay. So these are the assumptions. Now there are differentiation between perfect competition and pure competition. There is differentiation in perfect competition and pure competition. Now that difference is in these and in these. So these two assumptions, when they are dropped, okay, or when relax these two assumptions, then it becomes pure competition. Instead of perfect competition, it becomes pure competition. It becomes pure competition. Okay. So we also learnt of law of one price, that we call it loop. Law of one price. What does it mean? At a given point of time, at any given point of time, there exists only one price in the market, and we also discussed in the last class the why it happens so. So it happens because of there are large number of buyers and sellers. Each buyer and seller is atomistic in nature. That means they can buy limited quantity and they can sell limited quantity, which cannot affect the price. They have homogeneity of the product, so there is no product differentiation. There is laissez-faire policy from government, so government does not intervene in setting the price. So government does not affect the price in the market, so or does not take any decision which can affect the price. It only regulates the market. It frames rules regulation for organizing the market, for proper functioning of the market, but does not as such set any price. Then we also set free entry and exit in the long run. In the short run, some resources are fixed, some resources are fixed, and these fixed resources cannot be disposed in the short run. Okay, so only in long run all resources become variable. So free entry and exit is possible only in the long run. Only in the long run. It's like going to theater. So you go to theater to watch some movie, and when you watch some movie, so before interval you may not be ready to leave, because you have not seen what is interesting, what is not interesting. So interest may arise later. So it's like that only. So only after interval you may try to leave. It's totally uninteresting, right? Not at all interesting movie. So these kind of things happen only in the long run. People are having free entry and exit. Free word means that there are no charges for entering the market. There are no barriers to entering the market. Similarly to leaving the market, that means you can sell everything, whatever fixed resources you have. You can say the workers, from tomorrow you are not going to come. Okay, I have paid the salary plus severance amount, and you need not come from tomorrow. That you can say only in the long run, because in short run you have some contract. All workers sign some contract. So suppose you start a factory today, and you think that in 1 week I can close it. No, you have asked the workers, most of the skilled workers, to sign a bond that you will work at least for 1 month or 1 year. So you cannot close it, because workers are now attached to your enterprise. Perfect knowledge is required, because if they don't know what is the price in the market, what are the specifications of the commodities in the market, somebody may cheat them and charge them higher price. Some seller may charge them higher price, and if buyer knows more and seller knows less, so he may get some discount. So then this law of one price will not prevail. So perfect knowledge of market or perfect market information freely accessible to all participants should be there. Then perfect mobility of resources. If resources are not moving from one enterprise to other enterprise in the production process, then it may lead to surplus production in one firm and deficit and very less production in the other firm, and will lead to improper utilization of the capacity in the long run. Don't touch there. Sit there. So why perfect mobility of resources is required? Because if one firm has lot of control over resources, then one firm will be producing so much that they can affect the price of the market. So then these assumption will be violated. Atomistic means very small. Atom was considered to be the smallest particle, right? Smallest measurement of the particle size was atom. Now we have neutron, positron and everything, but they are part of atom. So we think that each player is very small. So each player can be very small in compared to size of the market. Size of the market only when we have perfect mobility of the resources. So those who are ready to pay higher price, so they can attract the resources and they can produce more. So those who don't have money, that much money to pay for those resources, so they will not be getting the resources in that much quantity, right? This is clear. Now we'll talk about one is last time also I talked, this time I will be also talking of the equilibrium of a firm in the short run and market equilibrium in the short run. Market equilibrium in the short run. We'll be talking long run later on. For most of the time now, we'll be talking short run. So this is for the market. Okay, this is for the market. So here we have price. Here we have quantity. Just say quantity because it is both quantity supplied and quantity demanded. So here we have Q star, P star, this is D, D dash, this is origin, and this is S dash. So this is the supply curve which is positively sloping, this is the demand curve which is downward sloping. On this axis we have, Y axis we have price, on the X axis we have quantity. Q star and P star are the equilibrium price and quantity, and this is the demand curve and this is supply curve. Interaction of them leads to equilibrium price and equilibrium quantity. Now here we are drawing another graph. Okay, same. Here we have output. Here we have MR and MC. Here we have MR and MC. Right? Now, in perfect competition, I can demonstrate. So this is total revenue, which is price multiplied by PQ. Okay. So price multiplied by quantity is the total revenue. So when we want marginal revenue, I just differentiate total revenue with respect to quantity. Right? This is the marginal revenue. Since I said in perfect competition price remains constant. So for every seller, see this dash 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 shows that price is fixed. Price is fixed for each seller. Now seller cannot change the price. Seller cannot change the price. Seller cannot change the price. So P I will take outside of this. So remaining is dq by dq times P. So remaining is P. So now marginal revenue is equals to price. Marginal revenue is equals to price. So P is equals to marginal revenue, and this is also equal to average revenue. And average revenue will denote the demand curve for the firm in all types of the market structure. Market structure means whether this is perfectly competitive market, monopoly, oligopoly, monopolistic. In every type of market, average revenue curve will show the demand curve for the firm. Demand curve for the firm. How it is average revenue equal to price? Because you divide PQ by Q, you get P, right? Now this is P is equals to AR is equals to MR. This line shows, and this line is coming from market, so each player cannot set a different price. It is given. Now this is the marginal cost curve. And you may ask, where is the equilibrium output? How much output each firm will produce and sell? How much each firm will produce and sell? So this perpendicular we are drawing from the intersection of these here. Here is the intersection of price and marginal cost, or we get MR is equals to MC corresponding to this output level Q star. Okay, so we are drawing a perpendicular which is coming here at Q star level of output. So firm will produce Q star level of output. Why not here? Why not here? Why not here? You could have said, sir, intersection is there also. Intersection is there also. Why not here? So I will show that also. You are supposed to know this. Right? I will show why not at this point, let's say Q dash. Okay? You understood this part?
Yes.
Okay. May I erase this? May I go ahead? Now, why not here? So I will just tell one difference, and I will show mathematically also. At this point, MC is coming down, and it is intersecting MR from above, because it is coming like this. This is your MR. This is coming down. It's coming down. But in the other case here it is going up, so it is intersecting from below. So what point is optimum? When MC cuts MR from below. Right? Okay. Now I will erase this. And now I will show this is the profit. Pi is equals to TR minus TC. Where total revenue is function of quantity of output, because price is fixed. So what can change now? For each firm we are talking now, for the firm, right? Not for the market. For the firm, right? So total revenue is now function of only quantity, not price. You can write it as DQ, right? And total cost, so cost is function of output. Okay, input prices are also fixed. So we are assuming perfect competition in both input as well as output market. Okay. Now, whenever you want maximum or minimum of something, then we differentiate the objective function. What is our objective function here? These. Why this is our objective function? Because our objective is to maximize the profit. So this is the showing. Now I can write this also as FQ minus CQ equal to pi q. So now we can say there is some function pi is equals to pi q, okay. So now profit is function of output, so profit is now function of only single variable, that is output, right? Profit is single function of output. So this is our objective function and this is our decision variable. So this is our decision variable. What is decision variable? The variable on which you have to take decision is decision variable. So how much quantity should we produce to get maximum profit is a question. So how much quantity means, quantity is a decision variable because you need to take decision on quantity of output to be produced. And what you want to maximize? You want to maximize profit. Therefore, this shows the objective function because this shows your objective. Our objective is to maximize profit. So whatever equation is for profit or whatever function is for profit will be our objective function, right? This is our decision variable. So we'll always differentiate our objective function with respect to decision variable. So now I will do, so drawing up too fast, right? So now I will differentiate everything dried up. Right. So now d pi by dq is equals to, now this is your revenue, this is your cost function. So now dfq by dq minus dcq by dq, okay. So ultimately this is dtr by dq and this is dtc by dq, and which you can write mr minus mc. So when you differentiate total revenue with respect to output, you get marginal revenue. When you differentiate cost with respect to output, you get marginal cost. Getting? Now, whenever something is maximum or minimum, its slope becomes 0. So this technique of differentiation gives you slope. You already know slope of total revenue is marginal revenue. Slope of total cost is marginal cost with respect to Q, right? So slope of profit with respect to Q should be equated to 0. So these should be equal to 0. So ultimately what would you get if you equate it to 0? MR equal to MC. MR equal to MC. So now you should be able to say when profit is either maximum or minimum, MR is equal to MC should prevail. Now what should be condition for maximum to happen? This is only a necessary condition. This MR is equals to MC is only a first order condition, or you can say necessary condition. This is not a sufficient condition. It is not now assured whether profit will be maximum or minimum when MR is equals to MC is there. Because MR is equals to MC can now happen at 2 points. We have already seen, you can turn the pages and you can see MR is equals to MC was happening at 2 points. One MC is cutting from above, one MC is cutting from below. Right? At 2 points. So if you have taken it down, may I proceed further? Yes. So now we are going for second order condition, that is called as SOC. So we have d pi by dq equal to MR minus MC, right? And now we can say that once again we'll differentiate it. Once again we'll differentiate this to come to second order condition. So you do d of d pi by dq. Once again we are differentiating. Okay, so what we get? D square pi by dq square dmr by, here dq should come, dq minus dmc by dq. Now for maximum to happen, this d square pi by dq square should be less than 0. And if I do that, what would come? dmr by dq should be less than dmc by dq. dmc by dq, right? That means what is this dmr by dq? Now this is shows the slope of marginal revenue curve with respect to output. Okay, this is the slope of marginal cost curve with respect to output. So it shows that slope of MR curve should be less than slope of MC curve. Slope of MR curve should be less than that of MC curve. Slope of MR curve should be less than MC curve, right? So now I will draw that graph once again here. So this is your MR. And what is the slope of MR curve here? What is the slope of MR curve? 0. Because this is horizontal line. So its slope is 0. Why 0? Because if you differentiate, let's say d MR. What is MR? MR is price, and price is fixed. So dp by dq equal to 0, right? Getting? So this is your MC curve. Now you see, in the first order condition, MR is equals to MC can prevail at both the points, here and here. But sufficient condition says that, or second order condition says that, slope of MR should be less than that of MC. So when it is less, here it is going down. So its a slope is negative and the slope of MR is 0. So which one is greater? 0 is greater than negative. 0 comes before negative. So now slope is, so at this point slope of MR is greater than slope of MC, and at this point now it is going up. It is going up means its slope is positive. So the slope of MR is less than slope of MC. So that's the reason we choose this point as optimum level of output to produce. We choose this level of output as optimum level of output to produce. So each firm will produce output where MR is equals to MC and slope of MC is greater than that of slope of MR. Right? May I go ahead now? Now we'll talk about profit of individual firm in the perfect competition. How to get the profit? Okay. What would be the profit of individual firm in perfect competition? So you know that this MC curve cuts average variable cost curve at its minimum. MC cuts average variable cost curve at its minimum, and above that will come an average cost curve. Above that will come average cost curve, right? So if you see simply pi equal to TR minus TC, and if you divide on both the side, okay, so you get pi by Q equal to AR minus AC. TR by Q is total cost divided by output is average cost. So now here we have MR is equals to P is equals to AR, right? So I can write pi by Q equal to MR minus AC. MR minus AC. So I mean to say, now the difference between MR and AC will be the profit per unit of output. Profit per unit of output, right? So I can write pi by Q MR minus AC, right? And if we just integrate on both the sides with respect to Q, so you integrate pi by Q dQ equal to MR dQ minus this is AC dQ. So this, if you integrate over Q, okay, so this should be gone somewhere, right? So now you can get the pi is equal to TR minus TC. You can get TR minus TC. Okay. There could be some constant, okay, to that effect because of fixed cost, because that will be part of now TC only. I mean to say, why integration? Because integration gives area under the curve. Integration. So now what is area under curve? So if you produce at this level of output, this is your Q star. This is your average cost. Average cost is how much at this level Q star? This much. So this much. This is your origin. So this is your level of total cost. This is your level of average cost, and if you see this means this is your average cost. But if you consider this whole area, so this is, let's say, O A, this point is, let's say, B, and this is Q star. So area O A B Q star. O A Q star shows the total cost. Shows the total cost. Why it is total cost? See, this length is average cost, this length is output, right? So we can write average cost is equals to total cost divided by Q. And if you do average cost times Q equal to total cost. You got it? This is the average cost. So what is area of rectangle here? OABQ. This is the average cost. This is the Q. So this is average cost times Q is total cost. And this is, let's say, A dash. This point is B dash here. These points, okay? So we will erase some of these things. Right? So now area right? So now we know the area OABQ star. OABQ star is the total cost. Area OA dash B dash Q star is the total revenue, and the difference between total revenue and total cost is profit. Total revenue and total cost is profit, and therefore, so we write area O A dash B dash Q star minus area O A B Q star. So remaining is A dash B dash B, right? Area A dash, B dash, and B. So I am just this much, right? So this area is the profit. This area is, okay? This area shows the profit. And the below area is all, this area is cost, right? This is total cost, this is profit, right? Getting? Now we must learn how loss will happen. suppose your average cost is here, okay, so the Q star is here, right? So this is the level of average cost. So this rectangle O, let's say C dash, okay, so is O C dash Q star. So area of the rectangle O C dash Q star is now the total cost. What is the total revenue? Let's say this is point D, this is point D dash, okay. Let's say this is D, this is D dash. So area of the rectangle D dash Q star is the total revenue. So when cost is on high side, okay, cost is on high side, then cost is more, revenue is less. So what is the amount of loss you are having? This much. So this is your loss now, right? This is your loss. So depending on whether price is high, price is low, average cost curve is high, average cost curve is low, you will be in profit or loss. So in the long run, in the short run, so this is all about short run. So in the short run, you may earn supernormal profit in the perfect competition. You may earn supernormal profit in the short run, okay. You may earn excessive profit in the short run, but in long run you will always earn zero profit, and the managers of the business will be earning only their managerial fees, they won't be earning any profit. Profits in the long run are zero. In the perfect competition. Profits in the long run are zero in the long run in perfect competition. Right? Getting?